I was talking to you about the metal music, the metal inspired music, but there was also the other side of doing, which is much, there's much more ambient music. Was that your decision to do that? To not just have metal music, but have a mix?
Yes. I did flat out copies of a lot of. I got a CD from Romero, and I think I put them on tape. Believe it or not, there was no carrying a floppy with you that would carry those size files. I don't think. Maybe it would. One file per floppy, or something like that. But anyway, I'm sitting here there with a dead blanket. Well, they die pretty easy, don't they?
They do.
Early on, I went to ID. Well, it wasn't that early on, but I went to ID, and I took these sequences I had done of some of their favorite metal music, and played it for them. We put it in the game and played it for them, and they loved it. Or maybe we didn't even put it in the game. I don't even know if we could at the time.
Right.
But they loved it. But I had also done some of that ambient stuff that ended up in the game. And I said, imagine playing the game and there only being this metal music. And that's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that way. What kind of levels are you going to be able to do that really scare the hell out of people with metal music going on, unless it's just one where you've got a ton of monsters and they immediately attack you and it's just immediately take off. But if you want to scare people, we got to have something that's just sort of pensive, and doesn't really have a lead. It doesn't have, it can be repeatable, it can be looped, because the files had to be small. They were MIDI files, but they still had to be smaller.
Right.
And they agreed with me, you're right. Well, unfortunately, some of those songs, they chose to put them in the final release of the game. And I went, well, okay. I was expecting lawsuits and all that, but evidently, you know what it did? It sold a hell of a lot of metal music, the real stuff, not that chintzy FM sounding stuff, but the real stuff. Because people went, God, I like that. And people say, well, that's so and so, and they'd go buy it. They'd actually go buy it instead of. Back then, people weren't able to rip things off like they can now. But
I mean, was that
you
because
you had to buy it?
Was that because you were a lawyer and you knew how much you could get away with writing?
No, listen, you can only get away with, and I've always said this, you can only get away with what a jury ultimately decides you got away with.
Right. Okay.
And if you get a jury that is going to take da 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 da, and you've got it in a song, and they go, that he ripped off Happy Birthday.
Right.
Right. You're gonna lose if the jury says that you stole Happy Birthday.
Okay.
So you don't use it. If you use it and it's totally without any thought in your mind that you're using it, if the jury believes you,
right?
But now to take a whole song, that's a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to take the chord structure or the sound of the guitar or there are only so many kinds of riffs you can play before they all start sort of sounding the same. A blues riff, they're copied over and over and over. Right. You'd have lawsuits right and left if they allowed people to sue them, that kind of thing. And I guess you probably could, but you're going to lose.
Yeah.
The judge is going to stop before it even gets to a jury. But now a jury would even take, if you take the day 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 do, If you take that
Right.
and you sue on it because that's mine. I did that. You
Yeah.
copied it.
Right.
A jury could go, yeah, they did copy it. And I had ripped it from old time blues, you know.
Okay.
So I don't know. But anyway, I think in the end run, it sold a lot of metal music.
Right.
And it didn't sell for me or for
No.
it. People didn't buy the game for the music. They
Sure.
did not. Or the sound effects. They bought it for the game.
Gotcha.
They were just a part of it. And most people turned the music off. Especially when they started playing.
That's a sin.
I know it is.
That's a sin.
And you and I are gonna sue them. Class action, baby.
Let's do it.
Let's do. We'll see how far we'd probably get a good jury.
Yeah.
They'll love your accent. They may sort of, if they're from the northern part of the United States, they'll love my accent because they do love
Right.
southern accents.
Sounds like a
At
win-win.
least they always did when I went up north, you know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we could charm the jury and get us mega bucks, man.
Right.
We'd have the police, the CIA checking to whether people were cutting the sound off in their games. And anyway, so I don't pretend that and even that CD that was done, it sold a few hundred copies, if that. It just paid for the CDs basically.
Cool. Sure.
Because
Yeah.
back in the day, the CDs were expensive to get done. There was no cheap, and one-offs took forever.
Right.
The CD players did it almost at real-time speed.
Gotcha.
Speed.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was ridiculous, you know. But anyhow, by the way, I did find some more of those CDs, which I have yet to figure out what I'm going to do with them. I mean, I've had a lot of people write me, and I didn't know I had them. Actually, my son found it in a storage building that I had some stuff in.
Oh wow.
But I probably will maybe give them away, or maybe I'll charge and I'll give the money to a charity or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe sign them or something, and yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't know how many there are. Maybe 10. Maybe a little more. But
Oh wow. Well, maybe we can organize something after the composers play if you find them, and we can maybe we can do
Sure.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
well, we can even do it through your thing if you
Yeah.
want to. I mean,
Yeah.
through
That'd be cool.
Because my website goes to a blog that I try to share stuff I've learned or whatever, and I haven't been on it in a long time. I owe it quite a few things, but
Right.
posts. But so yeah, we could do that.
Cool.
So anyway, the pensive stuff, like we're listening to right now, got in there, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. What on a level like this, it was great.
Creepy, you know.
Yeah.
Because it has this. I mean, this track has this really that that little staccato kind of string that dun 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 dun, dun and it just continues.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get tiring because the bass is always changing. You know, on the left.
Right.
And it just sounds. I don't know. Yeah. It's just it
Yeah.
never from my ears. It never gets tiring. You know.
Well, it was also fun because I like doing string stuff, and of course to do strings on FM is sort of a joke. But I mean, now flutes and clarinet, wonderful, because those are the right kinds of sounds. But
Right. It could perform those FM sounds similar to woodwinds.
actually, the lower strings, they do sound like strings. The higher ones sound more like a synthesized
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Right.
You know. But
And
anyway,
yeah, no, they're really great. And like, so when you were writing the songs, I know you were talking about the blues stuff there, because like, you know, you can't really get sued by blues. like when you were writing some of the metal stuff, because most of the songs are in blues form. Was that something you did at a time, or was it just because, like, you know, it's the style of the game, or?
It was just to be cohesive.
Yeah.
In the game, so that the music didn't draw away from the gameplay.
Cool.
And everybody's used to those. Now there's some that don't follow that, but they're not.
Sure.
You know, but actually, that was sort of my thought, is I'm going to keep them relatively simple, so that, and try to keep them where people don't know really where they are in that particular loop of the music, you know.
Sure.
And you went and did all the work, and I've been sitting here.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm enjoying your chat, so.
You've done a great job.
See, I've had practice at this, Bobby, because I've done a few of these composers playing out, and it's actually really difficult doing these interviews and playing the game and talking at the same time. I'm sure
it is.
It is.
And I'm chewing. Hey, listen, I'm chewing gum too, so.
It's proper multitasking.
I'm chewing gum, playing the game, and trying to talk. It won't work. It just won't work.
No, it's not easy. It takes a bit of practice, and luckily I've had a good bit of practice. So.
So, where are you, in this store or one?
No, I've cleared it everywhere actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I hear me making noises.
Oh,
I must have stepped on something.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So, like, were you listening to any kind of, so apart from putting the metal stuff to the side, because we know where you got the influence from them, with the ambient stuff, like the song we're hearing now, was there anything that you were kind of listening to kind of get inspiration from it?
No.
No, right. So it's just your own kind of creepy.
A lot of times I'd come up with just one thing, and I'm sure you do this too. I mean, you know, people say, well, what's the secret to writing a song? It's just noodling around with me
right.
and trying other things. Sometimes I will go and play. I'll reverse like a classical piece and listen to it backwards.
Oh.
And sometimes hear something that I think is maybe not unique, but it's just weird and it's sort of cool. And I might just start with that and build and of course there's software now. I was seeing a plug-in that somebody's done, and I can't remember the name of it, that somebody's just sort of come out with, that will write a melody. You can input chords,
right,
and they don't necessarily work together. You have to use your ear to make them work. But sometimes I would start with a chord structure and just go, I'm going to follow the structure and see what happens. And sometimes I start with the bass part.
Mm-hmm.
A bass part comes to me that's sort of cool,
right?
And so that's what I did with these, or I just would literally sit at the keyboard and goof around. And I'm not a keyboard player.
Right.
Guitar, I'm a string kind of a player more than anything else. But of course, you learn the keyboard if you want to learn to put MIDI things in.
Yeah, of course.
In any kind of real time. But so basically that's what I used on it. And it's just like with sound effects. I'd hear a sound like in the offices of id or offices of Apogee, and I'd go, that is cool, and I'm going to steal it.
Cool.
And of course,
That's
it
awesome.
wasn't stealing it; it was just using it.
Yeah.
But Duke Nukem had a lot of sounds from the offices of Apogee. The servo sounds were the Coop machine, because it had servos doing all sorts of things. You know, taking the coins,
right,
spitting the coins out, delivering the drink. You know, and the hum of the the hum of the compressor,
Right.
and
yeah.
just and the flush of their urinals was
Oh
used in
yeah.
the game.
Yeah, cheeky using the toilets. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, in Duke Nukem, it was the sound of Duke relieving himself was actually I recorded myself and looped it. The ultimate try to loop it sometime. Do that.
Okay.
Record it and try to loop it. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy to find a loop point.
That's right.
Zero,
Very
zero points you can find, but loop points. But I think ultimately it had to be cut down, and there was no way to loop it. It just was whatever it was. And I'm letting you once again.
It's all right.
Do all the dirty work.
Oh,
Lord.
Sorry. I just shot you in the back.
That's me. That's me just standing in the way.
So I'll go back to get you.
Up. Thank you.
But yeah, Duke is another game that obviously I'm a huge fan of, and the music and the sound. I know you did the sounds, and you were joined with
some of the music.
Yes, yeah, music. You did it with Lee Jackson, yeah, and
yeah. The actually Lee and I, well, Lee probably, I mean, he knew I was working on it, but they didn't say anything about Lee working on it. And Lee and I never really got to get together and go, let's be cohesive on this.
Oh,
he just wrote a bunch of stuff that I never heard.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
I never heard any of it. And that's why our music is somewhat different in the game.
It's nice though.
Yeah, there was, nothing wrong with it, but he, I think I did like 16 pieces of the music in that, and he did at least that many, if not more. But anyway, Duke was not necessarily a warm and fuzzy experience. It wasn't a negative experience, but there were a lot of people working on it, and everybody had their idea of where it should go, and there were several cooks and not a whole lot of waiters in it at times. And so it just it did come together good, though. I mean, people enjoyed it, I know, but it was also a little weird working. Ed and Apogee, of course, had worked together, but Ed moved to take over what Apogee was doing.
Right.
And so there was not hard feelings in it, because I never felt that Scott and George ever had hard feelings about them doing that. But there was a competition.
Right.
And I had to be very careful because I was working with both of them. I kept quiet about what the others were doing. Now they usually showed one another. I mean, if one came to the other's offices, they would, they'd show them the latest, what they were doing, kind of thing. They weren't trying to hide anything or anything like that. But it was a little strange doing that. But I never knowingly let them down in that regard as far as what I was doing. But
yeah, I mean, I the music from Duke as well was brilliant, and there's a few favorites that from your side that I really like Waterworld, with all the strings.
Yeah, I loved doing that. I wanted the swirling of the water,
Yeah. Just has the harps using that glissando, and it just sounds so fluid. It's really cool.
Well, and actually, I don't know that I knew there was that level. I think maybe the song might have inspired the level instead of vice versa.